Okay, and I want to turn off my original sound, which I've done. All right, hi friends, and it's just my technical ineptitude, which sometimes keeps us a little bit behind the eight ball here. Tuya just finished with Sacred Pentagram number 2. I found it extremely informative. So maybe you will want to tune in on that if you have not done so already. With any of these programs, once they are uploaded by BL and Harold and Joe, and also Michael with special mailings, you can go to them and you can review. I was really interested in what she had to say about Mahakali and purity and we have many factors there that are worth knowing about. Now, tonight I'm not on a strict time limit, but tomorrow morning, maybe BL, you can tell me what time we start GMT for the actual full moon and the time of the full moon, if that's possible for you. I can't. I don't want to go looking for it right now.
Yeah, hold on. I'm getting there.
Okay. If I can avoid,
the full moon service meditation, which includes the sacred pentagram, approach day 3, and Advent day 3, it begins at 2:45 a.m. and the exact moment of the full moon is 4:35 a.m.
So it begins at 2:45 GMT. Is that it?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, it's the middle of the nighter for us, I guess. Anyway, just also, Tuya and Anne have provided you with some schedules. Just make sure everything is clearly understood by you if you want to join us for the actual full moon. Well, there may be a few little snafus here, but I'm very happy to welcome you all. And Michael and BL are trying to keep me on the tracks here as much as possible. And there's also someone who is Moria Federation and is a co-host, and I'm not sure who that is. And let's see, is Anne interpreting for the Vietnamese people to hear later? Okay.
Yeah, Anne's on there, and the Moria Federation is BL too, so that's both BL.
Ah.
No, I already changed my name. That's somebody else.
Was that Joe?
It could be Joe, and if you're logged in twice, it could be you, not me.
Okay, Michael is by himself as host, so I don't know who it might be, but anyway, mystery guest, and I'm not going to name everybody that's here because we have quite a few people. I just want to say welcome to you, and Tuya's here as a guest. It would be nice to make her a co-host, I guess. It will be easier for her. Oh my goodness, I appear to be a guest also. Oh, well.
You're not a guest, you're a co-host.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't see
I'm way down at
Tia,
the
so
bottom.
she might be the second you down there as a guest.
No, I fixed it. 2 years in the co-host now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I'm way down here at the very bottom as a guest. I'm at the very bottom of participants.
Yes, you're in there twice.
All right, well, we'll just forget all that and hope for the best. Tui actually went over this diagram to a certain extent. We can always rely upon Mr. Joffre, or up here they pronounce it Joffre, for interesting illustrations. First of all, the mantram for Sagittarius, about which we can think not only up to the time of the actual full moon tomorrow morning, GMT, but we can think beyond that as well, because for a few days we'll be in that Sagittarian energy, and we're going to be picking up Capricorn quite soon. And the Capricorn is important because it's a repeat of the inaugural meditation. It's when we begin every year at a certain point in Capricorn. So we'll try to definitely have that set for you, unless BL, we already do. I'm not sure. I know you're busy at that time, but the question will be whether we have already put it on the schedule or whether we have not. I see the goal. I reach that goal and then see another, or then I see another. It shows us that the sacred planet Jupiter is the orthodox ruler. The non-sacred planet, at least it's outwardly non-sacred, the Earth, inwardly it is sacred, DK tells us, is the esoteric ruler, and the hierarchical ruler is the non-sacred Mars. And that has to do with ruling the lunar lords. Because the animal kingdom and its transition into the human kingdom was so much connected with the animality of Sagittarius, Mars is the appropriate planet. And but there are higher aspects to it, as well as simply ruling the lunar lords. You know, there was quite a transference from the moon chain within the Earth scheme. Many forms of life were transported to the Earth chain. And so we have on this planet, interestingly, almost a triple attention to three different kinds of origins. Those who individualized in Lemuria and also in early Atlantis. They are really the newcomers. Those who individualized on the moon chain, which contain many disciples, not all, but many. And those who individualized and were transferred as fairly developed lotuses in the previous major solar system, which emphasized intelligence. And they were had arrived on Earth, many of them skipping the moon chain experience. But it appears that the Buddha did not skip the moon chain experience, and that the seeds of the previous solar system ripened in the Buddha, and maybe there were 8 others as well. All of these are highly esoteric matters, and in a way, beyond us, but okay. We at least academically can take them into consideration. For ourselves, we're in the Advent period. Tomorrow is the 4th Sunday of Advent, and it's, well, here in Finland we call it the Little Christmas. It's filled with anticipation and a kind of quiet joy. The Stymphalian birds, who cosmically are really great portals, when they are reduced to the human level, they have iron beaks, think of that, and claws, and are very destructive. And our archer friend, who has now dismounted and is no longer half man, half horse, he's something else, he takes aim at those birds and tries to reduce them to non-threatening status. But in the long run, he has to sound the high note of the soul, which is like sounding the cymbals, and the birds scatter when the cymbals are sounded. Tuya was showing me today not the migration of the birds, but, I forget the word. I've never heard it before. Murmur something. I'm sorry. But it shows them moving in designs in the sky, and all subject to some kind of telepathic rapport, which makes an amazing pattern. So it's the birds and the Deva kingdoms are closely related. We don't want to be rid of the birds by any means, but we want to be rid of destructive thought forms which prevent us from shooting our arrow towards the light upon the mountaintop, and basically which prevent us from building the Antakarana. Because all of this, the whole Sagittarian theme, is also part of building the Antakarana. When we shoot the Antakarana forth from the emotional level through the gathered energies of the soul and into the triad, that's all a Sagittarian kind of gesture. And when that line of light, particularly the light that leads to the greater light, shoots through the indigo-colored Antakarana, because that's what we're using when we do the group work, that is a Sagittarian theme. The arrow is reaching heights where the hierarchy finds itself located. Now, when we look, by and large, the hierarchical consciousness in general, unless it is an ascended Chohanic consciousness, the hierarchical consciousness these days is focused within the spiritual triad, and we're trying to get some kind of impression from the spiritual triad in terms of purpose and plan, so we can really invoke and evoke from others that which will be helpful to them. There is, I'm always, well, it'll be in the telepathy work. We'll see if I can do any of that for you tonight. I don't know for sure. But there is a special term in terms of the magnetic aura that the master has built up, and out of which he can serve those who need elevation. And we too have our much reduced magnetic aura, but we can also serve others, invoking them and evoking from them something that will help them participate in the divine plan. The Jofra illustration will be referring to that over the days. Our friend Jupiter is in the heavens, and he is, in a way, evoking a response from the tip of the arrow of the archer. Now, this archer is a centaur. I don't know if Jofra had been reading Bailey. I doubt it sometimes. And the image of Sagittarius changes from the centaur to the rider on the horse, to the dismounted rider, to the bow and arrow, and finally to just a portion of the bow with the arrow. And that shows a kind of evolution. So this diagram, though very interesting, lacks the kind of esoteric integrity which the Tibetan would normally give. Tuya mentioned it's a bit like Diogenes, the hermit here. It's kind of a Virgo type of image. He's carrying a lamp in the middle of the day, looking for an honest man. Now think about the cynicism of that kind of attitude. Apparently, human beings could be a bit more truthful and honest, and here's a statement that the honesty which will develop from Sagittarius is being searched for. At first, Sagittarius is filled with exaggeration and, fish stories, so to speak. If the fish you caught is this big, well, in the Sagittarian telling of the tale, it becomes a humongous fish. Exaggeration is commonly found. But here, at least, the image of aspiration, the fiery arrow of aspiration, is indicated. He's on top of the rock, and the rock, of course, represents, in a way, Capricorn. The unicorn is found at the bottom of the picture, and the unicorn is resting and waiting his turn, because all Sagittarian goals lead to the initiatory symbol of the unicorn with his spiral horn. And of course, that truth that Sagittarius finally discovers is going to be very useful in helping to dissipate glamour. So, like Tuya had said, all kinds of little nature spirits are to be found here. But the main thing, I believe, is the fact that the Sagittarian image has been invoked by the great god Jupiter. And the result is the lighting of the fires of aspiration. Now, I don't know in your own life how much you have weighed or calculated the intensity of your aspiration and how you determine what that intensity is. It's not like aspiration simply ceases with the human being. All the way to the top, it's a crude symbol, but all the way to the top of any particular universe, aspiration can be found. The burning through. Now, we don't want it to turn into fanaticism, as it did in Spain, ruled by Sagittarius in terms of its soul. We don't want it to turn into fanaticism, as we had also in the Italian Inquisition. See, Sagittarius is demanding the truth, but what if the truth conceived is filled with illusion and very narrow? Well, then we have these inquisitional types of events which have been horrific in the history of humanity. So with Italy, we have the Leo, I believe it's the Leo soul, but the Sagittarius personality. And with Spain, we have the Sagittarian soul and the Capricorn personality. They've both been very hard on people who did not believe the narrow doctrine. Now, we have to wean people away from that approach, and many people today are still within that narrow approach of fundamentalism, whether it's Christian or Islamic or maybe in some cases Hebrew, of some cases it's not so severe in Buddhism or Hinduism, but it's there also. So that's one of our big jobs, is to help people make the bridge from their cramped, fanatical positions into something that is much more inclusive, idealistic, and inclusive idealism is what is required. And maybe during the Advent period, we can promote the idea of inclusive idealism, or the thought of inclusive idealism, and actually demonstrate it. Well, it's kind of a beautiful image. There are all kinds of nature spirits, and we do know that Sagittarius is the great explorer of that which lies beyond the customary ring pass not. So there they will find the Deva kingdom, and they will find those forms of life which are not customarily considered. I see the goal, I reach that goal, then see another. And maybe at this point we can pause just for a little moment and ask ourselves, what is the goal we see? What have we reached? And what is the goal that seems to be on ahead? I do want to say this, that Sagittarius will represent the 9th of the outer petals, and by the time it is fully open with all the others, the 9 that is, we will have the initiate of the 3rd degree. So pointing the way to true initiation, guarding the gate to true initiation is Sagittarius. It's also, a rather musical sign, and it connects with the guitar and the stringed instruments, the lyre, sometimes called the falling falcon. Tuya read about that just a little bit earlier. The solar angel basically implanted itself in animal man through Sagittarius, but the self-consciousness wasn't there until 3 million years later. I just saw a beautiful Christmas, the Brandenburg concertos of Bach, masterpieces, were being played by a Finnish ensemble. It was thrilling. And so many stringed instruments, including the 6-stringed viol, which no longer really exists except in replication of antique music. All the strings instruments these days, except the guitar, which still has 6 strings, like the viol, and that number 6, of course, is very important, with Sagittarius bringing in particularly and most emphatically the 6th ray, and therefore leading to the monad and to ascension. When the Christ disappeared into the clouds, so to speak, after he had emerged from the grave. Of course, when they looked at him, he probably looked like the Master Jesus, and maybe very few of them saw him in his Maya Virupa the way they will see him when he does reappear. Okay, well, I've probably said enough now. Francis has said some wonderful things, and I think BL usually puts the way you can contact Francis's statements, his own, his symbolism, his geometry, and some very good quotations on the subject from Master DK. So maybe BL, if they're, yeah. Okay, so you did put it in his images and the esoteric teachings that go with them. I've been having a little trouble making one of the images that I would like to show actually appear. Now, BL or Michael, can you make that appear? That shooting over the swamp and killing the Stymphalian birds. The big Stymphalian birds you don't want to kill. They are great portals of the swan and the eagle and the falling lyre or the falling falcon. You don't want to wipe those out, but you do want to get rid of those predatory birds that prevent us from seeing very much. Is there anything big that we can show?
I can put it on screen, and if you just want to let me know
it'll just be
when
quick.
you're done.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do that. Yeah, that's it. And that's one of Francis's images, and these are not the cosmic birds, but what they are the iron-beaked, iron-taloned thought forms, which are preventing us from reaching the initiatory status. So basically, that arrow is going to fly over the marshes, and it's going to help rid us of these ugly thought forms. Remember that there is a lot of Ray 4 anti-ugliness in Sagittarius. And there is the light upon the mountaintop, which represents the third degree and true initiation. So we all have to do that. We're plagued, I would say, at different times of our life by the factor of memory, which awakens in Scorpio. And it can drag up from the bottom under Pluto all kinds of stuff about ourselves that we might rather not see. But there they are, and we cannot forever remain vulnerable to those ugly thought forms which are untrue and misleading. You know, we build the Antikarana with Sagittarius and Gemini, but we can also follow the false light into the swamp. And there we can succumb to what the swamp has to offer. So we're shooting across the land, shooting across the water towards the great light of initiation. And that, well, sorry, that is something that we're all trying to do. Okay. So we're in the day of safeguarding, therefore. And we are receiving and we are holding. So let us withdraw our consciousness from the personality and its vehicles and enter deeply into the presence of the soul. We actually are in many ways the soul in incarnation, and now we want to think of the soul on its own plane and the spiritual triad, reachable via the Antakarana, which is connected to the arrow of Sagittarius. So we establish ourselves within the field of light and love and spiritual power. We attempt to establish ourselves as a soul, which DK said was truly necessary for successful meditation in Letters on Occult Meditation. And we merge ourselves more deeply into the sense of the group soul. And we imaginatively unite in soul with the spiritually minded people of the world, the men and women of goodwill, and even more so with the members of the new group of world servers. You know, now that all the racket has died down, you begin to appreciate the difference between the kind of cacophony, you know that word, discord, cacophony, that the Stymphalian birds can cause, with the dedicated, focused silence of which Sagittarius is capable. And as we begin to find ourselves merging, if we can do that, into the one soul of humanity, we realize, as in Rule 5 of the rays and the initiations: there is no my soul and thy soul. And pause on that for a moment. And in fact, this great second ray mantram, there are 7 wonderful, we might call them punchlines. And the one for the second ray: naught is but me. Now, if we could just really take that in. Naught is but me. And that's a very special kind of registration. Within our magnetic aura. Now, only in the silence are we going to realize the truth of this naught is but me. So, we have heard, for whatever reason, what cacophony sounds like, and how distracting it can be. So I'm trying to look on the bright side of all of that difficulty, which we had some minutes ago. Naught is but me. So, let us imagine a potent point of tension fed by the will aspect of the soul, according to its ray, and this point of tension is gathered at the mental unit and forms the foundation of the kind of projection we have been taught by the Tibetan. We've actually been taught 3 types of contact because the Antakarana is a triangle. So we imaginatively visualize the dual-colored individual Antakarana or rainbow bridge connecting our lower mind, centered in the mental unit, with the first target position, the monasic permanent atom. It has 3 spirallae, and the mental unit has 4. So the 7-foldness is achieved. But at least imaginatively, we continue to rise through the Buddhic and Atmic planes. We don't touch those first and second planes, and we probably don't touch any of the higher subplanes there, but we're headed in the right direction. So particularly the indigo ray is what we're going to use. Second ray indigo blue for this group work. Now when you're doing this yourself, you can focus on whatever may be your soul ray. But for now, indigo blue, the great synthetic ray of the soul of our planet, and linked to the position of the cosmic position of the sacred planets, and linked to both the soul and personality of our solar logos. The indigo blue, we're meditating in the indigo blue. And we try to feel that synthetic quality coming up from the astral area through the gathered energies of the soul and on into the triad. Now, before long, these words, which seem so abstract, will begin to mean something to us. And as we project upwards from the gathered pool of energy on the 4th subplane of the normal mental plane, we use a great word of power connected to the second ray. I see the greatest light. And the The largely indigo antikarana is projected into the spiritual triad, and along with it a kind of a rapier line of white light. So we have kind of a indigo and white projecting into the triad. And that is the technique that Master DK has taught us. Now, in the presence of this great light, of the spiritual triad, we attempt to register, feel the presence of the Great White Lodge, the Great White Brotherhood, the Lodge of Masters, the spiritual hierarchy of our planet. That is where they focus, unless they are Chohans and have undergone from mastership an ascension into their monadic location. Maybe Master DK has not done this yet. Master KH has, and the Christ surely has. So we attempt to feel a kind of heartfelt gratitude, and we offer our salutations to the Master of all the Masters in our present era, the Christ, the head of the hierarchy. And I'll sound an ohm. I can't sound it well yet, but I'll do my best. So, we offer our salutations, our solidarity to, our cooperation with the Christ, the head of the hierarchy. Oh. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all Masters. Oh. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom in this work we work most closely. Master M, Master KH, Master Chwalkul. Oh. Salutations to the Master Moria. the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. A Chohan on the first ray. Salutations to the Master Kutumi, whose ashram has the most to do with preparing the way for the reappearance of his brother, the Lord Maitreya. And he will be the Bodhisattva of the age of Capricorn, the Master Kutumi, a Chohan on the second ray. Oh. Salutations to the Master Jwalkul, a master whose training ashram enfolds many and on the different rays. And he it is who has given us the sanctioned communication from hierarchy. At this time, the Blue Books. Oh. Salutations to your own master as you conceive him to be or know him to be. Oh. Salutations to the great spiritual hierarchy of our planet. Which is, in a way, the ashram of the Lord of the world, Sanat Kumara. Oh. So these salutations, I'm not making this up. This is what Master DK offered as a method of approach to hierarchy for his students. Now, imaginatively raise your thought to Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known, a point of tension of very great beauty, as its DK describes the rivers and streams of light and the centers within Shambhala. And inwardly we sound a long, though silent Om as we imagine the group imbued with the energy, impulsed by Sanat Kumara. This, of course, does not mean we are members of the council, but a long, silent Om. And we try to realize that Shambhala is the planetary center through which the energies of the constellations and planets initially enter our little planetary scheme and many others, according to the law of assembly. And this happens especially at our full moon opportunities, so that they can be distributed to all sentient beings upon Earth according to their capacity to receive. Now, there is a disk of indigo blue, and there we will at least imaginatively meet the consciousness of Master DK. And there is a golden pathway symbolically reaching from outside the disk, though shortening and shortening, until we find ourselves within the indigo blue disk. So we all are gathered together as if at some point of tension, and we will travel, as it were, with the golden pathway. All this, we imagine, until that pathway disappears within the indigo blue disk. Thus, let us move with the pathway. and shorter the path becomes, and we travel with it in our creative imagination until we imagine that we find ourselves within the indigo blue disk, the sphere, a kind of replica of the blue logos. And here, within this sphere, we seek to render ourselves open to being outposts of the consciousness of Master D.K. So that his knowledge of the planetary, zodiacal, hierarchical energies can imbue our consciousness. And of course, the solar energies too. We're in the disk, in the sphere. And somewhere, if we're still enough, we may find ourselves actually feeling, registering that we are outposts of the consciousness of the great teacher. And we will be aligning with the spiritual qualities emanating from the three planetary rulers of this constellation sign Sagittarius. We'll be aligning with Jupiter, the exoteric ruler, conveying a vision of ever-expanding horizons and the enthusiastic motivation to move beyond and through the limitations of our present accepted ring past knot. We will be very much aligning with the Earth, our own home planet, the esoteric ruler, conveying the realization that our planetary sphere must be spiritually enlivened until it becomes outwardly the sacred planet it already is inwardly. And we'll be aligning with Mars, the non-sacred planet, which strangely is the hierarchical ruler of Sagittarius. Hierarchical ruler, conveying the zeal to redirect and elevate the tendency of all lunar lords through helping to ignite the power of aspiration. These will be some of our major encounters, and we can even think in larger terms. So, under Master DK's guidance, consulting, as it were, with his knowledge of planets and cosmic planes and solar logoi, much of it, of course, theoretical, we will ponder on Jupiter, visualizing this largest planet in size in our solar system. At least it appears so, within the boundary of Pluto and some of those peripheral planets. We'll ponder on the power of Jupiter, especially in relation to Sagittarius, to extend one's vision of the truth and reality, and to expand one's consciousness to embrace an ever-widening, more inclusive ring passanat. So we individually and in our groups embrace the positivity of Jupiter, its assurance of beneficial growth and eventual fulfillment. We realize, with the help of Master DK's presence, the growing sense of all-inclusive wholeness which it confers. So, we open our consciousness and the consciousness of our groups imaginatively to impressions that are born upon the Jupiterian stream of energy. The royal blue tinged a little with the purple color. These are Jupiterian colors. And we attempt to realize the areas in which you and I and our groups are most in need of this Jupiterian inclusive positivity. And then we visualize ourselves imbued with these divine qualities, and we bring these qualities into our groups, communities, nations, and eventually all of humanity. The note for Jupiter is often the G. A kind of fulfillment comes with Jupiter. But we think also, under Master DK's influence, of our own little blue-green planet, the Earth, in relation to Sagittarius, where it is the esoteric ruler, to redeem the etheric physical nature, both of human beings and of our planetary globe, revitalizing these lesser and greater etheric physical vehicles in ways which disengage them from retrogressive lunar tendencies. There's such a battle going on between the backward drag of the moon and where we can go as an inwardly sacred, though outwardly not so, inwardly sacred planet, the Earth. And through the influences conveyed by the logos of our planet Earth, we realize our capacity to tread the path which leads to the energetic glorification of our planet until it does become outwardly too a sacred planet. We can realize the Earth as a sacred heavenly temple. And one of Francis's images is the temple of man. So maybe Sagittarius is a good time to do that. Our sacred heavenly temple, in which spirit finds its embodiment in gradually regenerated matter. We're in that process now. And during the Aquarian Age, I think much of this regeneration will occur. But we have to also follow the indications of the pole star, which is allied to Sagittarius. Both point the way of correct direction. I don't know how many of us are satisfied or happy or gratified or whatever that we live on this particular planet of redemption, but also a planet of releasing sorrow and purifying pain. I mean, there are other planets we might have lived upon, and the reason that Earth was chosen monadically by us, well, those are mysteries dating from ancient times. So we imagine then, we open our consciousness to impressions born upon the stream of energy coming from our very own planet, the Earth, which has so much to do with etheric happenings. And we attempt to realize the areas in which we and our groups are most in need of the qualities of the planet Earth. And we, as if visualize ourselves being imbued with the divine qualities of Earth, which we receive and our groups can receive. This is, in a way, a very special planetary scheme, the scheme of Earth. We have not fathomed yet the beauty of our planet, fourth among the major planets from the Sun, if Vulcan be counted. And so we attempt to absorb this etheric vitality which is connected with the Earth. And we attempt to overcome the deleterious effect of the moon, the lunar tendencies carried by so many who have come to this planet from the moon chain. It's still a part of the Earth scheme, but the chain is different, and now called the Saturn chain. The moon chain really is no more except an objectionable obstruction in space. So we find the absorption occurring, and maybe we can use the note C sharp or D flat. It's a hard planet to live on with its first ray monad contributing to the death of so many forms experimentally put forth. But that's how it is on this planet of releasing sorrow and purifying pain. Finally, in terms of the planets, and again supported by Master DK's consciousness, there is Mars, the hierarchical ruler, when we think of it in terms of Sagittarius. And it stimulates, among other things, the power of aspiration when rightly used, until aspiration becomes transmutation and spiritual elevation. Of course, it also signifies the dense physical body and the astral body and the lower mental body and the personality as a whole. So it is, in a way, still a profane planet outside the gate of the temple. But when used in its aspirational mode, it drives the quest for ever new experiences of a reality lying beyond the present ring pass knot of consciousness. And it contributes to what I'm calling here the elevatory immolation. Elevatory immolation of the lunar nature, which will disappear, the moon that is, by the 7th phase of the scheme round of Earth. Of course, Venus has accomplished what we should have accomplished in 5 of the scheme rounds. We may take 7. So it drives us forward. Mars does. It holds us back in some ways. The cross is above the circle. But it drives the venturing monad, the outward bound monad, towards its truer home in those distant constellations which form the chakras of our local, and there are many, our local, one about whom naught may be said. It takes courage to transcend the lower material implications of Mars and venture towards distant constellations and towards cosmic planes. So Mars has emerging transcendent qualities, and we need to use them as we attempt to realize the areas in which you and I, your groups and my groups, etc., are most in need of those transcendentally tending qualities. So as we visualize ourselves imbued with the divine qualities of Mars, transmitting those qualities to the group. After all, Mars is a planetary deity. We cannot just dismiss it and say, well, it's a non-sacred planet. Compared to what we are, it's sacred indeed. And it's very close to the Earth in terms of its note. If the Earth is a C sharp or D flat, I won't get into the niceties of the different tuning systems in music. Mars is the red planet, and its note is C, just a half step away from the note of Earth, C sharp or D flat, which is very interesting relationship. So let's sound the red note, C, as we feel it coming into our aspirational life and imbuing us and our groups and cities and nations and even all of humanity with greater courage. The recurring sons of war come from Mars. They are monads of a certain type. Go to Cosmic Fire, page 1081 and 1082. And note also the cyclic sons of peace from Venus. And the relationship between Mars and the Earth. Oh, very close. It's called dissonance. The dissonance of a, well, we call it a half step in music, in the tempered scale. So with the help of the Tibetan, we absorb the Martian energy. So resonating within us at this time, we have Mars, we have the Earth, we have also Jupiter, and our target, we might say, is the Venus vibration. And we are directed by Polaris, which is the great star of direction connected with Sagittarius. Now, we do not forget the solar logos. We may not think of that great logos in realistic terms when we look up and say, well, the sun is shining. But that is a great vehicle for a cosmic being whose nature includes our entire solar system. We try to feel maybe when we're looking in the direction of the sun, we try to feel the love wisdom coming from the solar logos, and through its vehicle, the sun and our solar system. We attempt to feel that great second ray of the solar logos, the God of love wisdom, pouring through all planets, through Shambhala, through every monad, soul, and personality on Earth. And like Jupiter, the sun is resonating like a bell on the note G. The G is a very important note for us. Jupiter and the sun for our solar system, and Venus most related to Sirius. Now, we're in a great heart, and we often don't know that, and so many millions, even billions, don't know that, and that's what the Christ can restore for us. We look still farther above the constellation Sagittarius, with its profound relationship to three great rays. The fourth ray of harmony through conflict. This is how humanity became humanity from animal man. The fifth ray of concrete mind and science, the explorer, the investigator, and with greatest intensity, the sixth ray of devotion and idealism. And via its ruling planets, we have Jupiter, second ray, Earth, third ray in its personality, but second ray in its soul, and Mars again, the sixth ray. It is the major sixth ray sign. And we have to think about that as the full moon approaches, and beyond the full moon also. As we distribute, whether in 2 days or 3 days, the impression we may have received during the exact moment of the full moon meditation, which is coming up on us quite soon. So we ponder deeply, as we will continue to do, on the mantra for Sagittarius. I see the goal, I reach that goal, and then I see another. There's a thirstiness for ever new objectives and horizons are there to be transcended. It's so interesting to see these people who have been actors portraying ventures into outer space, and then they get to go on one of these rockets that takes them to the very edge of what we call space, and they're thrilled. Reality dawns on them. They're no longer just actors. They have experienced what can take them towards true goals. William Shatner, Captain Kirk, Star Wars, or well, maybe not Star Wars. I forget.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Okay. Star Trek. He was thrilled, absolutely thrilled with the experience. I see the goal, I reach the goal, and then I see another. I guess I'm not much of a Trekkie, but I have seen some of them. So, here we are, really, in the one about whom naught may be said. A super constellational logos, in which cosmic logoi are like chakras. And there is a head center to this great being. And the entire zodiac of constellations comprises this major head center. So we're interested in that petal in the 12-fold heart in the head of the one about whom naught may be said, which is keyed to Sagittarius. Now it may go to many places, Orion being one of them, but it also goes to our little cosmic logos called the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. I'm not going to try to show that to you. Right now I've shown it many times, and you know how it all starts from that major head center in a supercosmic logos, and there are 49 supercosmic logoi in our local area of galactic space. And we occupy one of those. But let's say it comes to our cosmic logos, that stream of energy. I mean, it will stimulate Orion, and it will stimulate the great star Betelgeuse, which is a heart-centered star, a kind of a second-ray star. But we're interested particularly in what it does in our solar system. And it goes through our solar logos, which is the heart of a cosmic logos and the great director of our entire solar system. And on, therefore, through the planets Jupiter, picture Jupiter, a great gas giant with the red spot, the Earth, our present home, wasn't necessarily also, always that way, and Mars, the retarding influence, and yet the adventuresome influence. And as far as our planet goes, this energy, starting from the heart and the head center of the one about whom naught may be said, enters Shambhala through our monad and all associated monads, and it enters the hierarchy through the great Lord, the Christ, and into and through the ashram, which you believe yourself to be increasingly a part of or associated with, and therefore through your soul and your group soul and into your spiritualized personality and all spiritualized personalities, this very high cosmic petal energy enters. So from the very high aspect, well, it's difficult for me to refrain from to refrain from finding that one image, which is if I could just find it. It does seem to be hiding from me right now. But, well, there it is. It's going to be there. And these would be Tuya's diagrams. Well, that's it. That's the one. That's the one. Where's home? Do we realize what these little triangles represent? Each one of them is a one about whom naught may be said, and finds its place within the cosmic monadic plane. And with expressions not given here on the cosmic atmic and cosmic Buddhic level, and on something accessible to the Buddha, the cosmic mental plane, and accessible to the Christ, the cosmic astral plane. Well, from the very highest point here of this one about whom naught may be said, all the way down here to our normal etheric physical plane, the energy is flowing. We can realize that, but we can't reach it, of course. That's more the objective of the planetary logoi themselves. So try to remember this diagram, and I'm sure we have it around, so you can study it. And now going back, so this is not exactly the moment of the full moon, but we're very close. And just think of the world and the way this energy of direction, this Sagittarian energy, connected with the 9 outer petals, connected with the gate to the 3rd initiation, connected to Polaris, a brilliant star of direction, even as Sagittarius is a constellation of direction. Think about where this energy could be applied on our planet to advantage, And I will say, do we know where we're going, really? Are we heading towards the glorification of initiation? Or do billions of us have no idea at all? There is a proper direction, and Polaris tells us about it, and Sagittarius, a major part of the heart and the head center of the one about whom naught may be said. Sagittarius tells us about direction. Where are you headed? Where are you going? Where am I going? Why do we want to go there? So we can visualize the energies of Sagittarius rightly applied, and somehow working on a major problem within humanity. You can name your own problem, but the whole idea is, where are we going? What really is our goal? And will the initiation that lies ahead of so many human beings, the first initiation, be correctly entered? That is a big question, and at these times we can imagine the use of the energies in the right way, bringing the divine plan in our own little way, bringing the purpose behind it all in a still lesser way, but enough to at least make us responsive a little to the purpose. So basically, I would like to have us sound the great invocation. We'll just speak it. If I just have to find it. And there it is. As we prepare actually for the moment of the full moon, and what was it again, BL? We start the program at, was it
2:45,
2:45? Yeah.
and it's
And,
exact at 4:35 a.m.
okay. Well,
GMT.
we have a little time, but not much. So here is the great invocation, which we can sound now at this point. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. So we're not far away now, friends. It was a very interesting experience tonight. I think it can be solved if there are not two of me who were bouncing off each other. I don't know how that happened, but we had the most outrageous echoes we've ever had, and I appreciate the fact that many of you did remain and somehow live through that. I want to let you know that I wasn't feeling too well last night, and so was not there for the glamour meditation, but what I did do is shortly afterwards I did the entire glamour program with all the readings and things of that nature. So you should have access to them through BL and Joe and Harold and also Mikhail. The glamour work will be there for you. And various of the telepathy programs, I suppose, have also been coming through. And remember that that was the very first group DK organized, and it had a number of the luminaries of the Lucis Trust at that time in that group, Alice Bailey and Foster Bailey and Roberto Saggioli and Regina Keller and others. So it's a book well worth reading and contemplating, and not an easy book by any means, because he was writing maybe for the most advanced students that he had, that had been gathered toward the ashram, his ashram, at that time. So, in the chat, there are many little things, and does Gemini rule? Echoes. Yeah, yeah, it does. It's bouncing back and forth within your own echo chamber. And I guess somehow we made it through, and somehow quite a few of you are still here, for which I'm grateful. Thank you for your patience.